Hello and welcome to the RWBY podcast. We are back for some good times. Much like RWBY, I am basically fucking dead. I'm mediocrity 4.
Hey, what are y'all looking at there? Did y'all see that weird thing that flew out of this building? What's up with the weird shrubbery in the middle of the floor? Why is everyone looking like that? Oh, 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 oh. I'm high-powered.
This episode was shocking, especially by the standards of RWBY. In fact, I was so surprised when I watched this episode, you might say I was basically Neo as she was getting possessed and swallowing the cat. I am dude.
Neo eats
Much
pussy
like-
confirmed.
Much like Ruby, I have consumed some sort of strange fungus possibly this morning, and so I don't feel that great today. I'm Coop.
You know, it's a really bold for the Rooster Teeth team to introduce a non-consensual vor into the show. Bold move there, Cotton. I wonder how it'll play out.
You're overlooking the even more pertinent thing of the foot fetishist being able to imagine themselves as a small rodent now. They've
Or-
somehow combined furry and foot in ways never before thought possible.
Yeah, or actually, speaking of foot fetishists, Penny's feet, God, I wish it was that
I
forward.jpg.
forgot about that. I forgot that she was barefoot throughout the last few episodes of Volume 8.
Very based in
Also,
trad.
Also kind of relevant, Neo tortures RWBY repeatedly and gets her to commit harikiri.
Yes, this...
Literally has the main character. I know that people will argue about this, and obviously the showrunners are gonna argue that that's not what happened in some way, so they don't get in trouble. But the fact that we even have to talk about them,
Yeah.
probably reasons to explain why they shouldn't get in trouble for this. That's big shit for this show. I'm shocked that they literally had RWBY, the main fucking character, off herself. Because let's be honest, that's what fucking happened. We can argue
I
about whether
don't-
it's herself.
I don't think
And
it's-
from a certain point of view.
But
Yeah, like,
in the tree, the cat said, and again, the cat's a liar, obviously, revealed, but they're not supposed to come back with their memories, so
Yeah.
essentially, now, obviously, is she going to remember stuff eventually? Yeah, but, theoretically, from what she knows, she offed herself.
Yeah, and, well, the thing is, losing memories, but the cat also says that the heart never forgets, and let's, something that I haven't seen a whole lot of people address with this episode, which, yes, we are going to be talking about some heavy topics this week. We will try to make it as fun and lighthearted as possible, but, shit happened. A lot of things happened. Probably more... This is by far the darkest episode in RWBY. What do you say?
Oh,
Yes.
not even close. It's, by a
Yeah.
massive margin.
But something I haven't seen a whole lot of people kind of, put together or at least articulate. I think a lot of people are kind of aware of this. I just haven't seen a whole lot of people actually outright say it. The cat, everything that the cat has done up to this point was to try to break Ruby's heart completely so that he could possess her. This is why he interfered with the herbalist back in, what was that, episode 4 of this volume? Because remember, back in that episode, RWBY almost took up his offer then and there without Neo's intervention. She about took the tea then. So she was already, basically bordering on this being her decision because she feels down on herself, she's pitying herself, she feels like she's weak and powerless, and that no matter how much she improves from where she is at now, she's never going to beat Salem. So we can get into theories later on, but by the time y'all are listening to this, any theory we could posit will already be outmoded because by the time you're watching this, the next episode will have already been out.
Yeah, and they'll be like, wow, look at these dumb idiots coming up
Yeah.
with all these dumb, stupid theories. Also, I do have to make a statement. Secure was right from the word go on what happened to Ruby. And I do think I was also right with the ego death of Ruby, because this is that's functionally as what has just happened to her, was her both literal and figurative ego death.
Yeah,
But a little extra
that-
got taken in the process.
that's 100% right, High Powered. And now I'm going to need you to add yet another to the fetishes. Okay, we've got Mind Break on top, so you're going to need to put that on there on the list that we've been coming up with. This
Did
is
Shindal write this episode?
I'm almost certain he did. If not, then it was at least partially co-authored by the same guy who did the 100% Kino Ultimate Classic series.
Metamorphosis?
Yes.
I knew you were gonna
Is
say
made by
Metamorphosis.
Shindal.
I was gonna say, yeah, this episode had a lot of relevant tags that are applicable to it.
Yeah. I'm not going to type any of them into the description, but yeah.
No, I'm not either. But I'm just saying, really, the more I think about it, the more I realize, damn, that it really did.
Yeah. But actually, that reminds me, we kind of got ahead of ourselves there. High Powered, you were here last week. What did you think of Ruby's breakdown?
Fucked. Everything is fucked. Fuck. Shit. Fuck. That's basically what I thought, and it was great. It was a wonderful breakdown. It was a little weird though how Ruby went on like a 10-minute long like homophobic rant, but you know, other than that, like it was good. Also, like John losing it and calling Ruby out too, like it was kind of nice of like, you know, we unironically have the pot calling the kettle black in this episode, and it works. Like
Yeah.
John going John going feral works great, and it all builds up to like, you know, especially with this episode, how like Weiss is like, oh well, like we never really like took the time to like listen to Ruby and like ask her if she was doing okay. Like, you know, there's like a little bit of like they're kind of going through like the cycles of grief too. Like Yang is kind of like doing some bargaining too. It's like, no, like it's like she's fine, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they go through like the whole like grief cycle basically
I
within this
like-
episode for the most part.
I love the way they do that, like, because, like, writing-wise, I think it's actually really well done, because it shows them, like, the other 3 or 4, I guess, we include John, they're still kind of in denial about how fucked up Ruby is. The only one who really kind of gets it is Weiss. The only one who kind of realizes how much they fucked up, to a degree.
Yeah.
Like, even she didn't expect Ruby to be as fucked up as she is. So I think it's
Oh,
actually
yeah.
really cool. If you go back and look at it, it's like they don't appreciate Ruby enough, and they don't try to see if she's okay, really. And then even when they realize, oh yeah, you know, we probably should have asked her how she was doing, but she'll be all right. Ruby literally offs herself. Like,
Yeah.
that's, you can see how out of touch they really are. It's such a great juxtaposition. I really like that, how they did that in the same episode.
Well, it goes
And
to
I mean-
it goes to something. I remember someone asked this question like in episode 1 of like if Ruby falls, who's going to kind of like step up to be the leader? And I know most of us kind of like suggested Weiss, and she did. She only has like one line in this episode, but that line alone proved that like she is at least more capable of realizing where she screwed up and actually like coming to terms with that. Whereas Yang, like, you know, bless her heart, she obviously cares about Ruby a lot and was expecting Ruby to like be able to open up to her because, you know, they've known each other their entire lives. But Weiss is like, no, like, you don't get it. Like, she's not just your sister, she's your leader. Like she didn't feel like she could come to us. And the
Yeah.
person she and remember like all the way back in like volume 1 and stuff, the person she usually came to when it came to like the burdens of leadership were like
John.
Jean and
Yeah.
Crow.
And
As it could be.
John's like a 40-year-old man now. And crazy.
And Crow's
Yep.
not there.
Yeah, because let's be honest, like Yang and Blake are two of the worst characters in the show, partly because they don't realize their own failings and mistakes, and worse than that, the writers don't realize how bad those two characters are, and they still haven't really admitted that was one of the issues I had with Blake and Yang getting together was all the nice things they said about each other were complete bullshit. But Weiss, on the other hand, has been great the entire show for the most part. In that the whole thing about Weiss is she's been realizing her flaws like over and over again, and realizing her privilege, realizing what a piece of shit her dad is. Like that's been her whole character, so that makes her, the most capable leader and pretty much the most mature of the main four, probably actually of the main eight, really.
I wouldn't say she so much realized it as she just kind of always felt that way from the beginning. Like nobody really needed to guilt trip her after the first season. She just immediately after
yeah.
kind of
Fair
like,
point. You're right. Yeah, I was conflating season 1 with like seasons 4 and 6 and 7. Good point.
Yeah.
Good correction.
Yeah, like ever since she had that conversation with Port, she's been a vastly different character. To the point where like, and this is kind of a knock on volume 1, but at the same time it's like, yeah, I get this is exactly what they were going for, where Weiss didn't need to have like stuff thrown in her face at the end of volume 1. She was able to like actually think about the Blake situation herself and came to her own right conclusion without having to be involved in the fight, which I still think is a knock on volume 1. I think Weiss should have been involved in that fight, but at the same time it's like, I get it. Like that's what they were going for. Weiss is a lot more introspective and a lot more like willing to self-reflect, almost like her theme song is "Mirror, Mirror" or something. I don't know.
let's be real, if she hadn't done it right off the bat, she would have never done it. Just like Yang never did it, and just like Blake basically never did it.
Yeah.
Except for like one time after punching a guy and then being slightly sad about it and then being told, oh, don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah, he was an
Yeah.
asshole anyway.
Yeah, because like even Blake had like the ability to like process her trauma after like doing the tag team finisher combo on like her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah,
Like
that's the thing about why the Blake stuff never really worked for me. So much of like what could have made it work was the stuff that happened off screen before the show even started, and we never really get flashbacks to that. We even had a whole ass Adam character short leading into volume 6, and Blake was only in it for like 10 seconds.
You know what
Well,
would have
Blake
been
is-
way better if Adam and Blake were still together as the show started, and Adam went to Beacon with Blake.
That's
Or
very similar
or
to
if
how
Adam stayed in the shadows and Blake was like
Yeah.
reporting to him throughout volume 1. Yeah, these are all like things
Either
that could have
way,
happened
something.
that didn't.
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
they could have
it's kinda
even
like-
played up for like humor where like Adam was like trying to like he's like in a trash can like talking to Blake or some stuff too. Like they like in volume 1, 2, and 3, like they would have done shit like that.
Well, anything
Yeah.
to put Blake in the trash where she belongs would be great.
yeah, that's kind of similar to how I was saying they sort of did Weiss inappropriately, in that they kind of she already came pre-packaged with all of her development except slightly being less arrogant, which Port handled in the first volume. So like, the Blake's entire deal was, it wasn't really so much a I wouldn't say it's she probably made it back to where she was before we ever saw her in the first place, really, because that all that neuroses was probably the result of having to try and keep low and not really be involved with somebody that you broke up with who you also knew to be like a psychopath. Like but it's hard to tell since, like you said, we never really saw any flashbacks of her except for like one where she was relatively calm with him, and that was also when she was already preparing to leave him in this,
Yeah,
with
that's a good
like.
point.
So I don't know. That's it's not really it's hard for me to say like who exactly was Blake prior to Blake is basically the only question you could have there. And I would say, like, maybe she was just this thing that we've got right now, this kind of like really boring milquetoast thing that doesn't really have a lot going on with her.
I think probably, honestly, which is why Adam was able to manipulate her so easily.
Yeah.
But the biggest issue with Blake and Yang is that the writers don't realize how wrong and immoral those two characters are. Because Weiss has the same issue of having her development done before the show even started, but at least she admits that she is wrong sometimes and she can learn from her mistakes, which at least makes her a more likable, smarter character. Yang, as I think media just said, or somebody just said, Yang's an asshole. But Yang is basically like, have any of you ever watched or read The Expanse at all?
I've
watched whatever was free on Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
It's
same.
all free on Amazon right now because Amazon bought the whole thing.
Oh,
So one of the characters in that show, like the heavy guy, like the strong guy, he's essentially immoral. The only reason why he's a good guy is because the main character of the show tells him to do the right thing, essentially. But like, he would kill anybody for any reason. Right? Like, he's just unhinged, and he just barely controls himself, and he does the right thing only because he is guided by other people, essentially. That's what Yang is. The difference is that the writers didn't realize that that's what Yang is. That's the problem. In The Expanse, which is a fucking brilliant show, 10 times the show RWBY is, he's a great character because he knows, and the writers know that he's like that. Whereas Yang doesn't realize, and Yang and the writers don't realize that Yang is. That's the problem.
I don't know. I don't know if that's exactly how Yang is. Yang kind of like threw out her potential of character development herself when she met the woman that she had been hunting forever, and then was like, just kind of acted like it was inconsequential. Like,
Hey, Mom. I sure hope those cigarettes were worth it.
yeah, I hate
Oh.
you. Goodbye. Oh, we're not doing anything with this? Okay, cool. Neat. Whatever.
And Raven was never seen again.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
and
true.
Raven was never seen ever again.
Which
Yeah,
I am.
remember when everybody, including us, were so fascinated with Raven, like wondering what was going to happen? Forgot she existed.
Pre-Volume 5 RWBY was a much more innocent
Oh,
time.
God. Those are good times, man. I miss it.
This episode, can we talk about what Neo did to Ruby? Like, holy shit.
First of all, can I just say that, like, for those of you who don't know, I made a shit post about what happened to RWBY this week, and ever since I did, I've been getting bombarded with RWBY chibi recommendations.
It's a palate cleanser. It's a palate cleanser. Man, I
Yeah.
miss RWBY Chibi
I do
also.
too. That show was ahead of its time. But no, so at the start of this episode, Ruby is sad as she should be. She said some hurtful things, and Little is there with her, and Little is trying to like console her, and Little brings up, a really excellent point that like Ruby has kept this mouse around ever since, the first episode, and has kind of like befriended this mouse and stuff. And this mouse has been, doing its best to help guide them and everything. And when all the paper pleasers drowned, Ruby was like, are we supposed to mourn Jean's make-believe friends? The whole make-believe angle being what ended up driving Alex to poison Jean. And that's one of the reasons why Jean snapped, because he was seeing like the whole Alex thing all over again. And Little asked like, am I make believe too? And obviously not, because Ruby cares enough about Little to tell Little to like just piss off, like go away before
Just go.
Little gets herself killed, because Ruby thinks that like if you stick around with her long enough, everyone that you're going to die. Like, as far as she is concerned, the only reason why Yang is alive is because of this mystical magical bullshit. Like, Yang sacrificed herself for Ruby, so she, for all intents and purposes, got Yang killed. She nearly got Weiss killed in Volume 5 when Cinder threw the spear through her. She got Penny killed basically twice. She failed to save Pyrrha, even though Jean like begged her to. Like, she promised Jean that she was gonna get Pyrrha and then didn't get there in time. Like, she's blaming herself. None of this is her fault. None of this is her fault though, but it's totally normal to blame herself.
She helped assassinate Nora's character too, don't forget that, so Nora's dead.
Well, okay, that is her fault. I wasn't gonna bring that.
Let me just say this, okay, before anybody else says anything else regarding Little. All right. I want to say I was right. I predicted exactly that Little was actually always just a fucking mouse, and all the rest of you theory weirdos are stupid.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm a theory weirdo. Sorry, Coop.
You know what I predicted? Absolutely fuck all, because I don't like doing predictions, because that's dumb, and it's better to talk about what actually happens.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean, there's still a chance that like Little Soul was whatever the fuck, but like that doesn't matter.
Also, Ruby was right, because Little died too.
That's what made it hurt.
That's what made the episode was the foreshadowing. It's like on the second watch, I'm like, uh-oh, stinky.
Because until that moment, I did not give a fuck about Little. I kept on questioning, like, why is Little... I kept on expecting, like, okay, obviously they're doing something with Little. I was just waiting for the shoe to drop, waiting for the reveal. The reason why I was buying into those theories is because, like, they were the only reason... Pun not intended. But that was the only way I could rationalize, like, okay, the only reason why Little is here is because they're going to have some sort of revelation with her. And the shoe dropped, and it dropped right on top of Little, and it was being worn by Neo, who then did, like, the little bug squish animation to, like, really drive it home.
You know what would have driven it home even more, though, is if Neo had been barefoot for totally vanilla reasons that have nothing to do with sexual lust or interest. Just saying, I think that she really definitely should not have been wearing any shoes there. And we should have also seen the blood squish through her toes. That would have been the best.
No.
Oh god. Well, I like how it opens up.
As soon as Little came back in this episode after being driven away by Ruby, I was like, oh no. Oh,
yeah, whenever I saw
where
Little,
they're going with this.
Whenever I saw Little, I was like, wow, such a good friend. And then like, especially on the rewatch, because I wasn't expecting it to happen. But like on the rewatch, like you see Little show up, it's like, oh, what a good friend. And you're just like, oh no, oh.
Yeah, that was again the one thing with that. It's the whole thing with this volume is it's kind of amazing, but also shows the missed potential of the show as a whole. So it's like I kind of love it, and it kind of also bugs me at the same time, because it's like a lot of this stuff would have been so much better if they hinted at this shit a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like the biggest problem with this volume, I think media said it earlier, like the thing with like the Blake and Yang thing, that scene wasn't bad. The issue is everything before it that led up, like everything before this volume is the problem. Like Little, I didn't really care about her very much either. This episode, they got me to care about her just in time to kill her, right? They didn't hint enough at like Ruby going. The biggest issue with this episode, and again, I fucking love this episode, okay? And I fucking love this volume. I've 360 completely on this volume. But the biggest issue with it is that they didn't do more to. It could have been even better if they had just like made little hints here and there throughout, volumes, even volumes 5 through 7, about Ruby feeling this way. Like they don't show enough like the weight of her like letting this stuff get to her. You know what I mean? If they had done that, God, this would have been a fucking masterpiece. If we had been starting to worry about Ruby for several volumes, this could have been even more impactful. And again, I don't want to complain because it's still fucking great, but it could have been even better if we had been worried about her. If she had death flags for a while.
I almost think that that is a benefit, at least in this volume, because us not worrying about Ruby puts us more in the perspective of Blake, Yang, and Weiss.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, no, it tracks.
I did have a complaint, a major complaint with this episode, and it has to do with Neo. It has to do with Neo towards the end of this episode. That was my big complaint for the. We'll get to that later though.
Yeah, I'm not
I
too
would
big of a fan of non-consensual war too, so it's understandable media why you wouldn't like it.
I'd just say, and regarding us, if they had Ruby constantly complain about being in charge and then not done anything with it for the past somewhat number of volumes, we'd probably have complained that they never did anything with it until now.
Yeah.
And then so I think maybe not having. I don't know. That's kind of a thing with a long running series, is that how. Yeah, I think especially when it's this isn't like a Game of Thrones thing where in spite of all the characters Ruby has, and they don't do a lot with them, but they I think the reason for that is probably because they have to sort of spread the butter a little bit too thin sometimes with them. And that might also be the reason for why they try to introduce so many secondary faces that we don't give a shit about. That because that they are running so long and they don't want to hit too hard on certain things, like they had done in the earlier volumes, getting rid of certain aspects of the character too quickly. It might be upon review that these guys actually did somewhat realize some of the bad things they did, and this is all kind of patchwork for the on the foundation that's just trying to keep it held together. It's not great, but it's better than if they didn't realize the foundation was a little bit shaky in the first place, I guess. That's a very high compliment coming from me too.
I still think. Oh, I'm sorry,
It is
dude.
nice to have better late than never, in fairness, right?
Yeah,
the way this show was going, honestly, this is the first time where we've gotten this many good episodes in a row, and I'm actually expecting it to continue to be good. Do I know that they could still fuck it up? Absolutely, yeah. But they're on such a roll that I'm expecting it to still be good. I've never felt that way about this show before.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's why I'm glad that I had a complaint, because it's my brain is still working. It's not just brain melting or whatever.
yeah.
I haven't lost my touch. I am still
Yeah.
like cognizant and able to sniff out this bullshit.
I am still
You
a
didn't-
jaded and angry RWBY enjoyer.
Not falling for the most recent grift is a very good thing to also have going for you on that end.
Yeah.
I wake
I'm
up,
gonna
there's a new grift, I go to sleep. I wake up, there's a new grift, I go to sleep.
I still like I obviously we know there's issues and it's important to point this out, but I had to admit, like, I am absolutely loving the shit out of this because somebody needs to go back, or I'll go back and find what I said, like at the end of Volume 8, even maybe before that in Volume 7. I remember I said they need to lose, they need to be fucked up, they need to be at the end of, like, they need to be at wit's end, they need to, like, be beaten down, they need to be on their own, they need to not have an adult leading them, they need to try to figure it out on their own. Literally,
I think you said that at the end of Volume 6.
Okay, fine. I've been saying it for even
Yeah.
longer then.
Yeah.
It's even a better point. I've been saying that for a long time. And you know what? The end of Volume 8, they lost. And boy, are they fucked up. And boy, did they fall hard. Holy shit. Jean's a fucking 40-year-old child psychopath right now. And Ruby literally left herself. So I don't think we could have gone any more than that. So I'm loving this. But just I'm still cynical about other parts of the show. They literally gave me everything I wanted. So I'm very happy.
So that brings us to the sequencing question, because we already covered like the Blake Weiss Yang stuff. So like that, like I said, they have like one line each in that sequence. But so we can talk about the Neo mindfuck on the whole, and it's presented like it's got some fucking like just baller presentation. Like Neo is going all out. She is making a show of this, which I have a theory, and I don't know if this theory will ever be verified. They might not ever go anywhere with this, but I kind of theorize that Neo crash landed around the same time as RWBY, very quickly figured out where she was, took a cup of tea or whatever, and became someone who could destroy RWBY. And that would explain her power-up. It wouldn't explain, like, her memories, because these paintings and stuff that are in the scene, I know this from, like, second and third hand knowledge. They're all scenes from that Neo book that came out like a year or two ago about like how she met Roman.
Wow, who could have guessed?
Yeah. Like we see her parents and stuff, and we see her like meeting Cinder, meeting Roman, and all that jazz. And then Roman comes to life, and it is so jarring because it's definitely not Grey Haddock.
I've heard that.
It's definitely not Grey Haddock, because Grey Haddock has been basically blacklisted from Rooster Teeth after the whole Genlock fiasco. But it's not even just one dude. It's actually two dudes. So we have the late Billy Kametz, who was cast as Roman and then died like a month later. May he rest in peace. But that was also why the English dub for Ice Queendom got delayed as well. Because he was cast as Roman originally for that, and for, secretly this volume. And then he passed away after only, like, recording a few lines. And then he was replaced with Christopher Wacamp, who is a prolific voice actor and also voices Clover. And I wonder if that recast has anything to do with Clover being in here, because, well, we got some familiar faces, and Clover is one of them, and he is the one that's, like, the most, what the fuck? Why?
Why is Clover there?
Like, how does Neo even know? How does Neo even know what Clover looks like? Like, Lionheart is also here, which is also pretty weird. But Cinder was at least around for all the Lionheart stuff. Lionheart was at least a public figure that everyone sort of kind of already knew, and who was a Huntsman Academy leader, and therefore, ostensibly the sort of person that RWBY would have been looking up to in her life. So that, like, makes sense. And then Pyrrha and Penny are two people that she, like, explicitly failed to save. And Ozpin is someone who, like, was the one who put all this burden on her in the first place. And then Ironwood was someone who she feels like she betrayed and who betrayed her. And it got, you know, at the
Got
end,
a little
Atlas
messy.
ended up, you know, falling and Ironwood died. Like, that all makes sense. What the fuck does RWBY have to do with Clover? Because
I'm gonna be
I'm
real
trying
with
to
you,
remember,
man.
I don't think they ever talked.
Yeah, I don't remember what exactly happened to Clover. Did he die?
He gets
Yeah, he
Can't
friendly
got
remember.
fired
killed
by
by Tyrion.
Crow.
By
Yeah,
Tyrion using
yeah, he gets
Crow's weapon.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's everybody was thinking it was like
Bury your
gay
gaze. Yeah.
fucking like tragedy or whatever. I was with a little bit different, but yeah, fucking shit, yeah, he only ever hung out with Crow, I guess. Well, I mean, I don't know. Easiest excuse was that wasn't Neo like disguised that whole volume as like an intern or a
Yeah, well,
secretary or something?
she was
Oh,
in disguise as a, I want to say it was like an Atlas officer. So, like, yeah,
yes.
maybe, and you know what? Maybe Clover was kind of famous around Atlas, so maybe he was a public figure. But like, I just don't know how or why Neo would draw any kind of connection between Clover and RWBY, because as someone who actually watched the show, I can't draw a connection between Clover and RWBY.
I think it's just
As a
because
guy who
they're
was previously in the military, I can draw the connection that Clover was in the Atlas military, and Neo decided to work at the S1 help desk. And so Clover had to deal with bureaucratic bullshit trying to get a lot of his fucking stuff through for each mission. And, and as such, Neo actually had the greatest, most in-depth knowledge of Clover as a human being that could possibly be known. Blood type, height, weight, uh, fiscal earnings,
whether he was
whether or not
circumcised
he
or
had
not.
completed, yeah, whether or not he had completed each Marine Net course, the ultimate complete file documents were all at her hand. So yes, she did know that Clover was uh, not at all with RWBY, and decided to make him show up anyway, just
Yeah,
because
like,
she needed
because
an
she's
extra.
just fucking with RWBY anyway, so like, it's whatever. But I mean,
Yeah,
it does kind of go to show like why Clover and Lionheart have like one line each in this whole sequence, where it's like Ironwood gets a few lines, Pyrrha gets a few lines. The ones who I think like, I didn't count the lines, I didn't like rewatch the whole sequence. I've rewatched clips because I was using those clips to make my meme video. But the ones who had the most lines, I think, were Penny and Ozpin.
Yeah, Pyrrha was like a close third. Pyrrha, to me, like the reason why Clover was there, because like these are all like I would like say that they're tragic characters as I'm like air quoting it, because like Clover like got killed due to like a friendly fire incident that like shouldn't have happened. Friendly reminder: blue on blue fire is always the most accurate fire. And
crazy how that works, isn't it?
oh dude, man, it was kind of nice to see Pyrrha in like properly rendered in like the new engine too.
Yeah, like
Um,
we've gotten her since Volume 3, but it's always been in like either 2D cutouts or rendered in Poser and then put on a screen in Maya, or like the statue in was it Volume 6,
yeah,
where
whatever. They're at that
her
one World of
her
Warcraft city.
her almost certainly, possibly, but maybe not, mom showed up, uh that everyone was saying was gonna be revealed to be pure, but then they didn't end up going anywhere with it.
God. Uh,
But no, what I think, like, I don't remember Pyrrha having a whole lot of lines, but one line she said was also like the second hardest hit of any of the lines, where she was like, I was the best and brightest Beacon had to offer, and I fucking died. As she's saying that as she's redoing the animation from Volume 1, where she, like, flips her, like, sword javelin up, turns it into a spear, and then throws it, which in Volume 1 she used to save Jean. And in this she's using it to try to, like, hit Ruby. Like, oh, that hurt. As someone
I
who
feel like
always really liked Pyrrha and really liked the dynamic that she brought to the cast, that hurt.
yeah,
I
when I
feel like
really
that
saw
was,
that. Oh, I'm sorry, QP, go.
well, I mean, like, I don't know. I think a lot of those lines, I'd have to go back and double check them, but like, yeah, Pyrrha died, but that was her fault, not Ruby's. And I
All,
mean, like,
all,
yeah,
all
it was
Pyrrha
an
had to do
add-on
was
type.
just like grab John by the dick and balls and be like, "We're gonna go to a farm and have 10 kids."
Oh, yeah, well, like,
Yeah, but the thing is,
I saw a debate. You go ahead, dude.
not everything is not all the deaths are actually peaceful. That's the thing. I don't think
The thing is,
they
I don't
have
think
to.
any of them are. But we'll
Yeah,
I'll get to
I
that
know.
after
I
you're
mean,
done, because I have a thing to say
yeah,
about that.
the
there's
one that
obviously
even
levels of like responsibility that she has. I think she might be, slightly more responsible for some than others because anyway, she's slightly more responsible for some than others because she's, in charge of like the plans or whatever. There's certain things where she's, more
she
directly
kind of
involved.
she kind of
But
drove Ironwood to his in a weird way, but
yeah,
like
but
she
by the show messed him up. But I mean, I,
Yeah, that was his bullshit semblance's fault.
yeah, but either way, the thing is, like, she's not really at fault for any of them, but she feels like she is, and that's the point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like
Like,
remember, this is not Pyrrha and
it's
Penny and stuff saying this. This is Neo fucking with Ruby.
yeah, because
yeah,
even if she's not genuinely directly at fault, she has made bad decisions, right? She hasn't always been the best leader, which is understandable, but like she feels guilty over it because she thought the Hunters was going to be different than it was. That's
I
the
mean,
point.
yeah, I know she was already on the back foot beforehand, so it does it only really takes like a little push to push somebody like that pretty hard. I would have thought that, like, I don't know, this is another, the one that Neo knew the most about was Roman, and that one kind of like fell flat because of how they decided to kill Roman instead of way back in the day actually having Ruby be forced to kill him herself. This
Which would have
it
been
even
better, I agree. That definitely would have been
it
better.
it even fell flat for Ruby. She basically just brushed that one off. It was the first. It was also the first one, so like that might have been easier to brush off too. But like they they really they tried to milk a thing that was like, the cow is dry. You got nothing. There's no going anywhere with this. And that's like, I think that's part of like the reason that they just kind of like offed Neo the way they did right after was because they had already been seriously milking her of stuff that she basically didn't have. And this is like as much as they could ever get out of her, and they probably knew it.
Yeah,
And
Ruby,
so,
like right out the gate of this sequence, Ruby kind of not gaslights, lampshades Neo's entire like post Volume 3 character arc, where she says that like is this really what this is all about?
It's
Torchwick,
perfect.
really?
It's
Really? Like
perfect.
even Ruby's like, fuck Torchwick. Like, is it like it really shows when, like, last episode Ruby could, like, barely even look at Crescent Rose, but as soon as she sees Torchwick, that shit is coming out. Like, she gives no fucks about what happened to Torchwick.
Which is why I think that
I'll
they
fucking do it
probably
again, T. Ruby.
Yeah, I think they probably would have been better off if they had they just hadn't had Torchwick randomly die to a Grim eating him and then exploding. I feel like if Ruby had actually had to be the one who killed Torchwick, so much of the shit involving Neo would be a lot more heavy, and nobody would complain about the stupid Neo shit.
Yeah, and
Like,
again, that goes back. That's a great point. I completely agree, especially because it goes back to what I said before about the worst part of the only big issues with this volume are previous issues with the show. Because if Ruby had like hit Torchwick off of something, right? Like wanting to beat him, but not necessarily wanting to kill him, and then because he's actually kind of a pathetic guy, like he begs for his life, and she actually freaks out and then tries to go save him, but she doesn't get there in time, and then he dies, and then she actually feels really bad and kind of traumatized by it. It would have been great. It's not even that hard to do.
Yeah.
you would have. Neo would have, in this instance, been more easily able to guilt her over it, and in every other instance.
Yeah, see,
She-
the Torchwick situation, it's almost like the opposite of a lot of the other problems in this volume, where, like, I love Torchwick's death scene. I think every single line from that sequence is gold, and it's the reason why that episode was my favorite episode for such a long time. But the things that have spun out from that scene, namely all the bullshit with Neo and Cinder, has been like, really? Like, what? Like, just, yeah, it was Cinder's plan, but why did Neo even think that it was Cinder's fault ever at all? Why didn't she instantly start gunning for Ruby as like, hey, when I last time I saw Torchwick, he was fighting you. I haven't seen him since. What the fuck? What happened?
Wait, hold up. I can tell you exactly why. You see, Neo is a woman, and as such, she is incapable of rational thought. There we go.
God.
I mean,
Flawless
Not in-
logic as always.
yes.
No. So, as far as the other ones go, like, yeah, she gives no fucks about Torchwick. In fact, Neo probably would have had an easier time with this whole thing had she not tried to pull that card. But so I'm looking at the image that I'm going to be using as the backdrop for this podcast. So we have Penny. Obviously, like, Ruby does feel like she failed her, not just once, but twice. And Penny's line about how, like, do you have any idea what it's like to be failed by someone who meant the world to you twice? Like, Ruby actually, maybe, possibly, but we don't actually know does. But that's all wrapped up in the Summer Rose thing, because, like, did Ruby resent Summer at all ever? We don't really know.
It kind of seems like she does, to be honest. Okay.
Or at least now she does, per se.
Well,
Maybe the
Yes.
Silver Eyes act in a weird sort of like more accurate form of reincarnation a la Hinduism, where actually when you die you come back as a different person with no memories of past lives or something. I don't know. Like,
You know, something that would be interesting, I don't think they've thought this far into it, but it would be really interesting if they did plan to have her, like, at least at some point, or maybe the entire time, slightly resent her mom for dying and going off, like, and, like, not taking care of the kids instead of, and just trying to go out and fight instead. And that's why Ruby is Arrow Ace Ruby. because she doesn't want to do something like that to other people.
Yeah, and that's why the Pyrrha stuff in this episode worked well for me, because, like, the real Pyrrha would never say this. The real Pyrrha would absolutely be like, yeah, and I'll fucking do it again. My name literally means victory at a sacrifice. But the fact that Pyrrha was the best in their class, was the best fighter in their whole age group and died, and that Summer was the best huntsman or huntress of her generation and died, and all these generations, all these powerful warriors that have lived throughout all the centuries have all fallen without being able to take out Salem. Like, that would weigh heavily on Ruby's shoulders, who, like, feels that no matter how good she is, no matter how much she improves, she'll never be good enough. But just to kind of, like, defend Ruby here, and not so much her mental state, but to defend, like, Ruby, the kind of thing that a therapist would say to her, had she actually, like, opened up and talked about her trauma, like, Penny wasn't her fault. The first time around, it was Emerald and Cinder's plan, and Mercury is the one. Like, Ruby figured it out. Ruby was going to stop them, and then Mercury stopped her. And then Pyrrha accidentally unleashed too much of her own power because Emerald had been fucking with her head, and ended up tearing Penny apart. And then the second time, Penny sacrificed herself. It was Penny's decision to keep the power out of Cinder's hands and give her friends a fighting chance. Same thing with Lionheart. Lionheart's fate was a culmination of the decisions he made. Clover, that one's on Robin. Like,
No, it's not. Robin is completely guilt-free. Everybody should love Robin. She's totally awesome.
like Ruby,
I forgot existed.
like, Ruby disobeyed orders. Ironwood preemptively had Clover try to arrest Crow, and then Robin got on her fucking high horse for no goddamn reason. That scene still infuriates me. It's the worst scene from Volume 7, because it's just a cavalcade of stupidity that makes no sense and just serves to make the plot stupider. Ozpin, also not his fault. Ozpin, fought Cinder and got evaporated, and did so knowing that he would possess the body of a young boy, because it's not his first time. It's not his first rodeo. And then Ironwood was kind of a culmination of his bullshit semblance that made it, like, physically impossible for him to compromise.
God, I still love the bit where fucking Ozpin is just beating the shit out of Ruby with a cane. Oh man.
Yeah, the effect of it is really good. I like the way that, like, they're manifesting, like, Ruby's guilt and trauma and all of that stuff, and just the weight of everything, like, she's gone through, and how I think it's very effective. It was like, damn, this is, like, heavy. Like, like, to me, the darkest thing, like, them killing Pyrrha. I always said, even in Volume 3, the darkest thing about Volume 3 wasn't them killing Pyrrha. It was permanently maiming Yang, right? Like, that kind of stuff in movies and TV shows and fiction is usually the darker stuff, like, because people die all the time. It's like getting into, like, darker mental states is always more traumatic, or, like, physical harm is always more disturbing, right? So having Ruby, she's kind of torturing herself / being tortured by Neo, like, and having all that happen is really, really, like, they do a good job. It's very effective, and then what it ends up with makes it even better, because it's not, Neo doesn't kill her. Neo convinces her to off herself, which that's way darker. I was not expecting that.
Oh yeah,
Like, I could see Neo winning, because they've been hinting for years that, like, Neo was gonna do something really dark, right?
Yeah,
And
that's right. They have been saying that.
yes.
Neo was going to
That's
do. So
they
had-
no, they had that's like in
Yeah.
all the Q&As and stuff whenever they ask about Neo. Yeah, no, that is right. They have said that that's
They did know for a long time that Neo was going to do something like this. So that is good that they were kind of planning a lot of this to happen. But like the fact that when Neo was like kicking her, like even before I was like, oh shit, Neo's gonna get her to fucking drink the tea. I actually didn't think she was gonna do it. I thought Neo was gonna try to get her to drink the tea, and Ruby might think about it, she might fight back, or that Ruby might try to, but then everybody gets there, or little, or the rest of the team stop her. Like one of the things that impressed me the most about this episode was I really did not fucking think it was gonna happen. Even up and almost until the moment it happened, I didn't think it was gonna happen. That's one of the things that like impressed me. I did not think the show was going to go there. And I know Ruby's not really gone, whatever, but still, the fact that they got the main character to the mental state where she off herself, that kudos to you, writers.
Yeah, and it's like this has been building. This has been building all volume. Like
Yeah.
that's the other thing too.
We already talked about the stuff with the herbalist. Her like giving up the pendant that she had been wearing since Volume 1, and how it holds
Not
like a
going
mother's
after
promise
Penny's
or whatever.
blade.
Abandoning her, freaking out at her own weapon, like Ruby feels the need, and in that moment, as she's drinking the tea, Ruby feels the need that she needs to become something different, and whatever price she has to pay, whether it be like memory loss, the physical loss, whatever, like the price at that point seems worth it to her. But that's getting a little ahead of ourselves because Ruby does lash out at Ozpin, and just to add insult to injury, Neo swaps Ozpin out for fucking Oscar, and we get Aaron Dismuke in this episode as well.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh, I don't know how. I think the writers probably thought that was like an effective.
What did Ozpin say? I don't really recall what exactly his little rant was.
If I go to try to check, it will fuck up my recording. So it's building off of what Ironwood said right before, where Ruby's like, I was just trying to save everyone, save as many people as I could, and Ironwood's like, yeah, fat load of good, that did you. And then he throws, slams Ruby against the wall and then throws her down. And then Ozpin says, how many more lives do you have to ruin before you get it through your head that you aren't qualified to save anybody?
Ooh, that burns,
Not
and it's
qualified.
coming from like
That line was fucking good. That line was really good because it's not just saying killing people. Like you're fucking shit up with your bad decisions.
Yeah, like you aren't qualified to save the world. You aren't even qualified to save a mouse. Basically, like that. As someone who like idolizes heroes and stuff, that must have really hurt. Like, no wonder she lashed out and then got swapped out for Oscar with blood. A lot more blood than what we usually see. Like, we've seen blood in the show before. We had like the wounds and stuff on Mercury's legs back in Volume 3. We've had people with like blood in their mouths, scab wounds, little like blood splotches stuff. This is like the first time I think where we've seen like blood gushing out of a wound and actually like staining the ground and getting everywhere.
I mean, honestly, I would say that fucking Ozpin's whole little thing there is kind of stupid. Like, what? He's trying to fucking get all like into some credentialism on Ruby not being qualified. Bitch, just whip out your license you got back in Atlas. You're qualified as he is. Like,
to me, it's perfect that it's coming from Ozpin because, like, you know, as I've stated and we've stated multiple times on this series, it's like, how many dead students is Ozpin standing on?
Yeah, and remember, this isn't real Ozpin. This is Neo using Ozpin's position as an authority figure in Ruby's life to tear her down. Like same thing with Ironwood.
No, I obviously it's like, it's not real, so it would be hypocritical if it was the real Osmond, but it's still effective. Like I love this episode for I didn't expect them to say all this shit out loud. You know what I mean? Like I thought at most they might imply Ruby feeling this way, but like to really beat her over the head, like literally beat her over the head with her failures, like that is not something this show would have done several years ago. And again, like, cause I remember one of the things we talked about, I think with Robert a few episodes ago, is like, yeah, it's like, yeah, they're going all in on Sad Girl Ruby, that's great, but man, they might like just kind of brush it off, or like have her like, recover really quickly. We talked about that, and I was worried about that, but fuck no, that's not what they're doing. Like, and a few volumes ago, 2 years ago, that's probably what they would have done. And the fact that they're not doing that, the fact they're going completely the opposite direction, they would not have had Ruby do what she did several years ago or in the beginning of the show. And I really like that. I have to applaud the direction they're going in.
Yeah. So right after that, that's when Neo like shoves the tea back in her face and then gets blasted by the cat, who can like just hyper beam, I guess.
Well, she gets like freaking she basically has her mind break dojin powers come back on her. The recoil of the mind break was too strong, and she got mind broken.
Yeah. Well, she gets blasted by the cat, and then the cat starts to possess Ruby because that's been his plan all along, and that's the only reason why he interfered with the herbalist. And then that's when Little shows up and tries to like bite the cat's tail, despite having stated that she is terrified of cats and even like scared of Blake and stuff because of the cat ears. Still like willing to put herself in harm's way to help Ruby. And then Neo comes back, swats the cat away, stomps on Little, and then gloats, and then that's when Team Ruby and Jean get there, and then the Ruby drinks the tea right in front of Yang probably without even realizing that that's actually her team there. She probably was
that's
thinking,
even more perfect.
She was probably thinking that was just more of more of Neo's illusions, and that Neo was going to just keep hurting her, and so she drinks the tea to basically escape.
Oh, it hits so much harder now with that perspective. Fuck. Oh, Ruby probably thinks this was like, other than the cat, Ruby probably thinks like John and all of them showing up was just more of Neo's illusions, because they didn't speak at all or anything. Whenever they showed up.
They showed up. Yeah.
I don't know. Well,
like,
no, they did talk a little bit whenever they showed up, but like,
I think they just said Ruby, and then she drank the thing.
oh god, it's so perfect. Like, I didn't even realize that. God, I'm an idiot. Holy shit.
I didn't realize that either. That does make it even better.
It would make sense, yeah, if that was.
It makes even more sense now. Holy crap! Wow,
Yeah.
The writers are making us look dumb right now.
Oh, I
love it.
put that together right away.
Look, I want the writers to be better at writing a show than me. What a surprise! You know what I mean? Like, great. Please do continue to do this. Thank you. I mean, they already made me eat my words about the beginning, like 2 or 3 episodes of this volume. I was not like all that jazzed on it, and they made me eat my words. Fine, I will happily look like an idiot to get great content. Okay.
Yeah. So then, then this episode kind of goes off the rails a little bit. As soon as, of course, Ruby, best part of this volume, as soon as she is out of the picture, the episode kind of like starts to fall apart a little bit.
It kind of does a little bit, but it's like,
so
it falls apart like a good way, but I don't know.
So
like,
we have to kind of wait and see where they're going with this. So Ruby and Little fall into the hole, like we've seen other characters do when they like get whatever with the tree. The
Along the
cat,
Crescent Rose.
the cat is like freaking out or whatever. Yang is completely catatonic. I really like that. She can barely like stand. Blick is like holding her up. Um, Jean is a little more determined, and I saw a conversation earlier, like what would have happened had like Ruby and Jean switched places. Like I feel like Jean has never had a high horse, and so he would actually be much better equipped at dealing with Neo's bullshit. Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
would, like he would be
Oh,
able to tell
absolutely.
right, like he would be a lot more cognizant to say right away that like no, the real Puro would have never said that.
Yeah, no.
John's like, you think you were born? You think you were merely adopted by the femur breaking machine. I was born in it, molded by being the punching bag of the RWBY series.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing you got to give Jean credit for, he doesn't really have much of an ego. Like, he is humble. And Ruby, as much as she's been a good person trying to help people out, it is like a weird flaw of hers that they never address. That, like, she does always think she's right. Like,
Yeah.
she does have a bit of like an ego to her that they just actually never really noticed that about her until this volume and these last few episodes.
Well,
Like,
I've always wanted that. I've always wanted that from
ego.
Ruby. Mostly because like ever since Volume 1, she's very much reminded me of my favorite comic book hero, Captain America, whose entire like personality is based around his stubbornness, and depending on the story arc, that stubbornness is either really good and saves the entire world when he's dealing with like Red Skull and Thanos and the Cosmic Cube bullshit. But when it comes to stuff like Secret Empire, Captain America No More, The Winter Soldier, Civil War, it fucks him up. The fact that he is unwilling to compromise, the fact that he thinks he is in the right, and that he, his heart's in the right place. He wants to save as many people as possible. He doesn't trade lives, and that inability to compromise gets him in a lot of trouble. I've always wanted that from Ruby, and this volume has given that to me. As did Volume 8, by the way. Like, remember, this is all building off of what happened with Volume 7 and 8. So, gotta give those volumes credit for this as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, kind of.
especially Volume 8. If you take out the Nora character, great volumes.
But going back to Jean for a minute, like, it goes to show that, like, what the cat has wanted is a vessel. He wanted to possess a broken heart from Remnant in order to get out, because he doesn't know why the gods from Volume 6 trapped him in the Ever After.
Yep, he needs a flesh puppet so he can escape the gulag.
Yeah.
I thought
Throughout all of this, Jean never broke. His mind broke. His mental faculties disintegrated. His cognition and rationalization deteriorated. But his heart was never broken. He never once gave up hope. That, like, Jean has, like, 2 lines in this episode. But just the whole context around it, and how his relationship with Ruby has always been, and how, what happens to Ruby in this episode, like, it made me like Jean even more than I already did.
And he was right about the cat too.
Yes.
That's the whole thing.
Yes.
John has the light Aryan blood memory deep within his veins. He doesn't need rationalism to get through. The sheer force of his will is inculcated into his very spiritual will itself, and causes him to be able to act even without thought. Whereas
John will survive the Kali Yuga. He will break the cycle.
Ruby, unfortunately, herself, she was cursed with the dark Aryan bloodline, where her will has to be enacted through rationale. And so whenever she can't reason, she immediately has to fall into despair. It's the sad yin-yang cycle of all true Aryan spirit.
So, okay, I've been kind of putting this off long enough. So Neo gets possessed by the cat because fucking what?
Oh,
Like I said,
thought it made sense to me.
her mind break
She was
backfired.
a little progress.
I don't.
It's the oldest trope in the book media. Whenever you go out for revenge, you have to dig two graves. Even Torchwick was saying that about that to her.
Was
It
she
was really
like
just
just?
herself saying it to herself, but
Was she just like so fucking befuddled by the fact that her plan actually worked for once
I think
that
so.
she
I
had
think
like
that's,
complete and utter like organ failure? What?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's part of it, honestly. Because again, like to me, it kind of made sense because it's uh, Neo's shot. Like my little gag at the beginning of this episode was like kind of like accurate because I was shocked at the episode because of what they did in terms of like all the stuff, the traumatic stuff they did to Ruby and all the stuff they made her relive, et cetera, but also the fact that she actually went through with it. I did not expect that. And I honestly don't think Neo did either. What I think, because I think Neo expected to have happen what I thought was going to happen, which was that Neo was going to torture her like this and, fuck with her and keep fucking with her. And obviously it was going to get to her. She knew it was going to get to Ruby because Ruby is that good person that cares about everybody. So she would feel guilty even if stuff wasn't actually directly her fault. But Ruby's spirit wasn't actually going to fully break, but it was going to break enough to the point that Neo could, like, kill her or whatever. And that's what I thought was going to happen. Or, like, that's what I thought Neo's plan was going to be. Not that Ruby was literally going to die. But that's kind of what the plan was going to be. And the tea wasn't to literally get her to drink it. It was taunting her with it. Like, you should kill yourself. You should kill yourself. You're worthless. You should kill yourself. And Ruby would at least question in the back of her head. I didn't expect Ruby to actually do it. That's one of the things to me that made the episode great. I expected her to be traumatized by it, but I didn't expect her to actually do it. I don't think Neo actually expected her to do it either. That's what I think. So that shock is a combination of her surprise that it worked this easily. I think she thought she was going to have to try hard. And the fact that she also is hollow now that she doesn't have a purpose.
yeah,
Well,
it,
yeah,
it,
it
it
kind of
kind
does
of
explain sort of like through when quote unquote Roman talks to her afterward that she didn't have anything planned out past that, and
yeah. The
you
voice is
know,
like, "What is that? It really?"
yeah,
Essentially,
that's
I thought
and I
that was
think
funny. I thought that like the Roman personification, even the Roman personification was like, wait, what? You didn't think about what was going to happen after?
that I do think it probably would have worked better with that had we somewhat known more about Roman and Neo's relationship, and I mean like not in whatever stupid book that they did, because nobody's going to read the damn book
yeah.
unless
I'm
you're weird.
illiterate. I actually don't know how to read. Sorry about that, media. I'm never actually going to read your book since I'm illiterate.
Yeah, if they had previously kind of established that it was that Roman was the one who had all the drive and Neo was always basically just following him along, then and that's something that can be like reasoned out post hoc from this, but it's kind of that is kind of like more just like a headcanon patch at this point, because that's not something you could get from anything else anywhere previously about what their relationship was, that
Yeah,
that he was that he was the one who had the vision, and that Neo just kind of like was ensorcelled by that, which that's a pretty typical dynamic between certain evil characters. You got the one guy who he's got his will to power going on, and you got the other people who follow behind him because
yeah.
of it.
Like
And
you
kind
look
of
at Kim Possible. I mean, she goes just basically along with the ride with Doctor what's his name.
Shigo is more based in all ways than Neo in that respect, though. Like fucking like, not only is she down for her man 24/7 no matter what, not only is her man on the ultimate level of Sigma grind of just constantly wanting to fuck up some random redheaded teenage girl for seemingly no reason. But she herself will fuck up that redheaded teenage girl for seemingly no reason because it's what her man wants. And she will tell that to you straight to your face. Shigo
Wait,
is fucking awesome.
so you're saying Shigo is actually best girl? Okay, audience. Find yourself a lady like Shigo. Find yourself a woman that'll have glowing hand kung fu fights with a random like super spy high schooler. That's a keeper right there.
You need
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Shigo's complaint towards Draken was never that he was going around trying to commit crimes. It's that he wasn't committing them well enough. That's what I'm. That's what you need.
Yeah. So,
So
uh, the episode ends in a cliffhanger. Neo's possessed by the cat. Ruby's gone. The others are there. We might get a fight. We might not. I personally, because we only have 2 episodes of this volume left, I think they can wrap this up. I think we can actually escape the ever after in these 2 episodes, because we can have an
That might
episode
be.
we can have an episode about like Ruby coming back and getting reforged and stuff, and then that opens up a direct pathway to the tree and to their ticket out of there. My question, or I guess hope, is that I want, since this is the direction they decided to go with Neo and the cat, I would like for this to stick around. I would like for the cat to actually succeed in escaping from Remnant and be like a secondary antagonist for the final like stretch of volumes, however many we end up getting.
do you know what I could see?
The villains can use an extra pair of hands or two, since Watts and Hazel both died last volume.
Yeah. Do you want to know what I could see could happen with how the cat meets its end? The Jabberwocker. The only thing that cat
Ooh,
seems to be terrified
yeah,
of.
yeah. Like I can see that. I can see that coming into play. Um, and we also we have a couple shoes left to drop. I still feel like there's gonna be a couple revelations. I don't think that this setting and what it offers to the characters is enough to have a whole another volume of it.
Yeah, I don't. I don't. I don't want the cat to make it to Remnant and become like some sort of weird secondary big villain. Because like, what would the cat even do on Remnant? Would it just fuck off? Would it become like a secondary major antagonist? And if it did, then would it have to like it would basically have to come into contact with uh our actual one uh of Salem and like
Well, I imagine it would want the relic of knowledge.
yeah, possibly, and then in doing that it tries to grab like a relic that it either way like it's a really weird. I I don't want to have to deal with that. I barely want to have to deal with most of the villain interactions in general. Like,
Yeah, it is gonna
you,
kind of. I feel like it is gonna bum a lot of people out when we do have to like get back to Salem and Cinder and Remnant and the relics and maidens and headmasters and academies and the plot. This has been a nice vacation from all that bullshit.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of curious though. I wonder if like, maybe like, even like the reincarnated like, they could probably do stuff too where it's like the Red King or like, the reincarnated herbalist like help them get to the tree. Like it's kind of one of those like weird things where it's like oh, Confucius says if you want to go to the world tree comes to you. Like I feel like that's kind of the bit with like the world tree, as you know, the curious cat goes to like do his gulag battle with whoever to get out so he could drop his 50 bomb and get the battle royale.
Yeah. So, are we about ready for questions?
Yes,
Because
let's do
we
some
do have
questions.
some speculative questions in there as well. So, we'll save the theorizing for what the audience is actually interested in. I had a lot of comments on this post. Only half of them were actual questions. Most of them were like, man, I do love that Ruby had proper tea etiquette while self-deleting herself.
Oh,
A lot,
oh.
lot, lot of comments like that on the stuff I've put out this week. So a stereotypical game that was from Suetana too, by the way. A stereotypical gamer asked, "Is the Curious Cat alluding to the possibility of Ever After also being made by the gods as another of their experiments?" I don't think that was alluding. I think it just outright stated.
Very probable out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, his entire motivation is apparently that he learned that there was stuff he didn't know about, and so now he has to know about it. He's consumed by the lust for knowledge of this different world, also made by the same people
Oh,
that
so
didn't.
that's how Zeech got started. So Ruby is just taking place before like the whole Warhammer 40K universe. Cool, got it. Okay, next question.
This
Yeah,
is starting to turn into fucking DC Doomsday Clock. Um, Going with the this is from Mikkel Catalan. Yada yada yada. What do you think new Ruby's personality would be like? Yeah, that's the thing. Like Ruby is absolutely coming back. You can't have the show Ruby without Team Ruby, and you can't have Team Ruby without the R in Team Ruby. Like, so nobody thinks that she's permanently dead. The point is that, like, what will she become? I imagine something similar to how she kind of envisioned Summer Rose, because that's a whole chestnut that probably needs to be addressed this volume.
Ruby basically becomes the platonic ideal of what Ruby thinks Ruby should be.
Yeah,
Ruby becomes even rubier than Ruby was.
So
yeah.
Ruby just becomes hyper reality Ruby, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
pretty
saw
much.
one theory that's like, oh, she's gonna literally become Summer Rose, time travel, and then become her own mother, which is just the stupidest theory in a show that has been chock full of stupid theories.
I don't
Because
know what meth he's
that would
smoking.
that would require the show to be like over now, and for this to be it, this to be the end with no resolution whatsoever. But I mean, if fucking Stephen King did it in Dark Tower, why the hell not? Uh,
I mean, that's like Attack on Titan tier shit, which like
yeah.
obviously spoilers for Attack on Titan though.
Spoiler
Just
for
even
Dark Tower as well.
yeah,
That
like oh
happened.
yeah. Yeah, spoilers for Attack on Titan. Eren Yeager kills his mom to get himself
Make
to become the Eren Yeager who he currently is. Okay, my
and then
spoilers are done.
fails anyway. So really, he probably shouldn't have. But it's weird. It's,
Isn't the whole thing of Attack on Titan that Aaron's the bad guy the whole time? Basically.
He is in the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does live long enough to see himself become the villain, as they say.
yeah,
Uh,
but then he kind of does some time travel shenanigans that sort of undercut it like
yeah,
heavily.
yeah. So, Deserti asked, "Will Little be reborn, or is she permanently dead?" She will be reborn because that's just the rules of this world. She didn't get
Yeah.
eaten by the Jabberwocker, so reincarnation is on the table. Whether or not we see that is up to the writers. I hope we get an inkling on what Little is going to become now.
Little becomes an even more jackalope than the previous jackalope. Little becomes the platonic ideal jackalope with even bigger antlers and even stronger jumping legs, so that she can
Does Little
come
become
in
like
and
a
be.
cute mouse monster girl and joins Team RWBY? Find out in next episode.
Little's first lines in the next episode will be "cheesed to meet you." You can
Yes.
count on that.
Yes. God, if they actually do that, I'm gonna lose it.
Devin O asked, how does Neo know Ruby has these issues?
She doesn't. She
Damn.
was ad-libbing it like the entire time. A lot of
Yeah.
these things are not even put
I
together. People are gonna say.
that's I will buy that 100% there.
She was spying on them the entire time. I mean, we know that she saw Ruby freak out about like Crescent Rose, like she was there for that part of her breakdown. But like, other than that, I don't fucking know, man. Because plot.
As, and I could be wrong, but the way I interpreted that scene was Neo was just projecting what was already in Ruby's head.
Yeah,
So is
No,
Ruby projecting that stuff herself in a way, like and Neo was going to find it.
possibly.
I
Yeah.
want to bring up something too real quick. Whenever Neo experiences non-consensual vor, she's just sitting in a chair. So a part of me is thinking whenever I saw it, I was like, wait, so Neo was just like sitting in the corner, like self-cloaked, like projecting this stuff like Dr. X or that one more powerful psychic guy in that one X-Men movie the entire time.
I guess.
Okay, that's it. I'm done. Next question.
Uh, the Z Killer asked, "Do you think Jean will ascend?" Asking like Jean versus Neo Cat next episode. Will they both die? Will Jean ascend? Or like what's gonna happen with that? I don't think Jean is going to die. At least not in the next episode. He might sacrifice himself to get Ruby back home, but like that's kind of been on the table for a couple episodes now. Ever since they revealed that he's aged up, that's been on the table as a possibility. Um, but yeah, I don't really know where they're gonna go with the Neocat stuff.
Neocat, Neopet.
Oh god.
My God, it all lines up.
Did you know that Neopets was designed by Scientologists?
Yes.
I did not. That actually makes way too much sense though. God,
It's an
it's like
interesting
all
rabbit hole
clicking
to get
together
in.
for all my life is now clicking together for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A metric asked, "What is the most epic song ever?" Uh, I don't know. Eruption by Van Halen, maybe.
Shit, I'm trying to think. The meme go-to answer is Freebird. Um, a serious most epic song ever. What's that one that they did for the Call of Duty Black Ops? It's like Blue Night or something, where it's like dun 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 bum, ba, da, dum, and it's got the bass line going. I just imagine myself like hanging onto the side of like a vehicle, like all kitted out, and like putting my foot through someone's door and committing war crimes to that music. But yeah, that's just me in my own personal fantasies. Coop, what's the
I
most
don't
epic song out there?
I don't know I don't know about epic per se, but I've always felt like Sultans of Swing has been extremely underutilized in movies. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I you never see it. Like it would fit really cool with like a cold assassination sequence, I feel like that. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Oh, Blue Monday is the name of the song. Good song.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Like so like yeah, I in terms of like I don't know, epic songs like hmm, I don't know. I don't I I guess hmm shit like anything by Iron Maiden or like basically there you go. Take
Yeah.
your pick.
So
You can't really go wrong.
so Anna asked two questions. Will the other characters drink the tea to get to Ruby? No, because they don't have the tea available, and I also don't think that they would. And it would also kind of just be a little redundant if they all kind of drank the tea and went through the same rebirthing process.
It would ruin the theme too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it
it would undercut this
Yeah.
as a bit of desperation on Ruby's end.
Yeah, that would be really
Yeah.
dumb.
And the second,
Unless they're like, hey, we're gonna we're just gonna restart the entire
Yeah.
series with like
Yeah.
a whole new
yeah,
characters.
the real plot begins now, 10 volumes into the series.
Also,
Hold on a
if they
second.
do if they
Time
do
for the
do the
Ruby
thing of
Love
like
reboot.
having an even Ruby or Ruby, like, do you really want an even more Yang Yang or an even more Blake Blake?
No.
Like, yeah, that's like
Hell no.
you're
Left
asking for something extremely terrible there. If that is the case, I have no idea how exactly Ruby will come back. But should she come back the way I think, then yeah, I don't I don't want I don't want it. I don't want I barely want the Ruby part, but
Yeah. So, the second question has to do with, like, future volumes. What the heck are they gonna do with Tyrion and Mercury? They're gonna have them fight. Like, it's neither Tyrion nor Mercury have been shown to have very much in the way of, like, personal motivation. They just get sent by Salem to fuck shit up, and so they will continue to be sent by Salem to fuck shit up. And Team Ruby, once they return to Remnant and get to Vacuo, will have to try to unfuck the unshit up.
what happens is that Mercury and Tyrion wind up finding themselves having to pull some buddy cop shenanigans over in what is it, Mistral, the Asian place, and they basically essentially completely remake Chinatown, but with them.
and then Mercury is always upset at Tyrion because like anytime they have like a half decent lead or whatever, he just like kills the people they're trying to get information out of. So they're always getting like 1 step forward, 2 steps back the entire time.
Yeah. I do know that well, can't say for sure because money talks, bullshit walks. But Josh Gorell, the voice of Tyrion, has said that he will not return to Ruby because of the whole the Kaden Jensen fiasco last year. About
What the fuck was that?
What even was that?
I don't fucking know, man. It was something to do with like okay, so basically what happened, and this is just so stupid, and I absolutely fucking hate shit like this. So basically what happened was Caden, who is trans, joined Rooster Teeth years and years and years ago. But then during the production of Volume 9, kind of got sick and tired of them, and so left. And then, like, complained about their history of having jokes about like the LGBT community because they're an internet-based comedy company, which is like, what the fuck were you expecting? Like, you knew this when you were hired. Like, it's this whole bullshit thing, and it caused a lot of drama on Twitter. And Josh Gorell decided that he wasn't going to support anything Rooster Teeth related now, but that, you know, We'll see what he says when he is offered a paycheck again. You know, like I love Josh Grell. He's a great voice actor. He's one of my favorites, but like a lot of Funimation actors, they're replaceable, they're expendable, they're not, and they like to like open up their mouths and pretend like they're more important than they actually are.
What? Did he lose his animation contract too?
No, no, he's still with Funimation and shit. But that
Okay, so it's
no,
just a, like
Rooster
minute
Teeth,
and
yeah, Rooster Teeth has licensed out a lot of Funimation talent over the years, and licensed a lot of their own talent to Funimation. Like Lindsay and Michael Jones have both done work for Funimation in the past, um, namely like Fairy Tale and stuff. Uh, so yeah, Quiet Message asked, do you think Curious Cat's hatred of the Rusted Knight is meant to reflect Cinder's hatred for RWBY? No, not really. I feel like the Curious Cat's hatred of the Rusted Knight has to do with the fact that like the Rusted Knight slash Jean never bought into his bullshit and refused to like break and let the Curious Cat have a shot at possessing his body. Like
that's how
I
you
did I don't
guys
even like
always.
get I don't even get hatred vibes from them at all.
I don't know, man. I've always hated people that don't fall for my gaslighting and insist on keeping their own corporeal form. I think that just really grinds my gears, you know? It's always been something that annoyed me. I'm sure the cat would feel the same way.
So GQ Smith asked, do you think RWBY will be repurposed into an idealized summer? Kyle already answered that.
That's
Anna
what it feels
asked,
like.
yeah, Anna asked another. Anna has like 5 comments on my shit this week.
Anna, you need to comment even more. We need
Yeah,
more Anna
comment
comments.
even more and join the Discord.
But do you think we'll get to see Summer interact with Ruby at the tree? I would. Th- I've said on numerous occasions that if they resurrect Summer, that would be like me the point where I have to drop the show. But this would actually be a good opportunity to have like a Summer ghost thing show up. Like if they're ever going to do it, next episode is the fucking time. If they do it after next episode, then they blew it already. They ruined their best shot. This is the best opportunity to have something
Summer
like
show
that.
up. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Like
Yeah,
if
just
they
have
You
want
only
to if
get
they want to
one shot.
unzip
Do not
Summer,
miss.
then the time to do the next 2 episodes is the time to do it.
I don't
Guys,
think they'd unzip
remember,
Summer so much as
remember.
they'd
Don't
re-zip
forget,
Ruby back
you
up
only
so
get
that
one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes
Yeah.
once in a lifetime.
Yes.
I, fe-
So
I
wise
feel
man
like
once said.
if they I feel like if they did that they would kind of like keep they wouldn't completely destroy the mystique around Summer. They'd probably just have her show up and talk about nothing but Ruby and tell her, "No, you were good before. You can go back to that. Just don't break down again." Basically. Like,
That would be kind of. I mean, I guess if they really go hard on like the actual presentation, I would buy it. But I feel like that would be a pretty weak sauce way of resolving this.
I'm giving you like just
Yeah.
a semi-predictive verbatim
Yeah.
kind of way it would go down. Like, I think Ruby was fine. And I think what Ruby needs to realize is that she was actually fine, and this is what a leader is supposed to be. The, you were doing it right, sort of ish. And all you have to really realize is that even when you fucking fail like you'd have occasionally, that's kind of the price of doing business. And you've got to fucking muddle through it regardless. And that would be fitting with the show's all overall theme of keep moving forward too. Like, so I don't see why they wouldn't put that as the realization that I'm not saying it's like a power was within you all along type thing. I'm more like, it's like you were good the way you are. Just drop the uh, trying to saddle all your baggage on other people thing too, and you'll go back to being good.
Yeah. So, CB Henson asked, do you think that this is meant to further set up a confrontation with the gods as the final conflict of the series? This is maybe. I don't even know. I don't even think the gods are coming back for real. Uh, I don't. I don't think that might be where this all is heading. But if it's not, then you're not gonna hear any complaints from me about that.
I mean, the generally uh, correct me if I'm wrong, but the gods, if they return, they're going to be like, "Yo, where the complete world peace at?" and then
Yeah.
destroy remnants. So
Yeah.
like they either have to not bring them back at all, or if they bring them back, give them some kind of really probably just random reason not to destroy the world. And it's the gods are not gods are kind of weak sauce stuff. I'd prefer if they just prevented them from coming back at all. But if they did come back, that's what they'd probably do. They would probably be like, "Oh well, you guys do have world peace because half of the world is destroyed now, so that's kind of peaceful, I guess. You can keep living."
I mean, I've been saying since Volume 6, I wish the gods hadn't existed in the first place, so I really hope they don't bring them back. Unfortunately, I do think they actually will bring them back at the end to do, like, the final judgment kind of thing. I think that's going to be how they end up
Maybe
winning.
maybe they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you could have had complete world peace if it wasn't for Salem, so we'll just destroy Salem, and then you'll have 100% complete civilizational harmony forever."
So I'm gonna rapidly blast through a couple of these because we've already answered them throughout the course of uh this podcast. Stardust Warrior 16 asked, "Are they getting out of the Ever After this volume?" I think so.
Probably.
Ashbarian, did Roman teach Neo how to swallow? He would be the only one who could have. Mr. R. Sorry, that actually wasn't a question. That was a joke that Ashbarian was making. I just wanted to say it.
You got tricked. You fell for the oldest ruse in the book.
Yeah. Mr. R. U2B asked, "Why does this volume feel so forced?" I don't think it does. Draco Nightmare asked, "Do you honestly buy that Ruby is broken enough to drink the tea by choice?" Yes.
Yes.
She did.
Amity
100%, 100%.
Amity asked, "How would you feel if Neo was redeemed after torturing the main character into self-terminating?" I don't think that's where this is going. Okay, another more serious question. How do you think this episode portrayed Neo's personality, considering everything any of her illusions says is something she is saying? I really liked that whole aspect of it.
Neo's really good at gaslighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had she only had her man, she may have been the ultimate gaslighter, but alas, the tragedy that befell him made it so that she was never able to fully exercise her gaslighting powers.
Yeah. And then final question comes from Angry Garbanzo. They asked, "Do you think Neo, is dying by the end of this volume?" That's a possibility, but again, like I almost kind of feel like they're gonna keep her. They're gonna keep her around. I feel like that's just. I feel like that's where they're going with this. They're gonna just keep Neo Cat around for as long as possible.
I hate that name so much, Neocat.
I really want them to get rid of the cat and not have it come around. And I really, really want, finally, so we don't have to deal with her anymore. Because the cat, like, what is, like I said before, what the fuck is NeoCat gonna do if it actually makes it to Remnant? It's gonna have to deal with all of the other stuff on Remnant that's already really fucked up there. And I don't want them to add another fucking type of bean to the 17 bean stew and make it so that they've got like yet another character who either A isn't doing anything at all or B fucks up the dynamics uh, like they've already been doing with all the other ones.
I
Like,
swear to God, if Ruby hits NeoCat with her silver eyes and that's what kills NeoCat, I don't know if I'm gonna be upset or excited or whatever. So that's all. I'm just gonna leave that there.
Yeah.
that
So,
Ruby hasn't actually used her silver eyes on anything in this world yet, has she?
no, and I get that, like, none of these things are Grim, and that's as far as she knows, that's the only thing that they would work on. And she's also just not really in the right state of mind to be using them anyway. But I was really thinking about, like, would it work on the Jabberwocker? Like,
I'm
I've
not
been
sure.
I've been kind of like
That's a
tossing
thought
that
I've
around
had
in my
too.
head. If it's gonna work on anything, it would work on that. I don't think it would work on the cat. I think the cat has little too much liveliness to be hurt by something like the Silver Eyes, as far as we know. Maybe not. Um, but yeah, that was all the questions we had. Of any other comments leading into the next episode? I really hope next episode. Here's my hope for the next episode. We get the blacksmith again. And we get a scene with Ruby, Little, and the blacksmith explaining what the fuck is going on.
I'm never going to bring the
Yeah,
blacksmith back. I'm expecting that. I didn't expect that was the end of the blacksmith. I imagine that's going to come back.
Oh
Probably
yeah, they're gonna use that blacksmith again. I agree with you 100%, dude.
I mean that was a basically a sort of weird semi internal monologue thing kind of that Ruby was going through in there, so I guess they probably would. I don't I don't see why they wouldn't. Like if the entire episode was just Ruby talking to the blacksmith, that one, and then like episode after that they wrap up the volume somehow. I would be even fine with that, honestly. Like if they want to really dig deep into Ruby. But, you know, it's what I, it could happen. It seems like a really reasonable thing to have happen. Not sure whether or not it will, but we'll see, I suppose.
Yeah, so that's all I have. If you like this video and you want to see more, like, comment, and subscribe. This has once again been a much longer podcast than what we would have in prior volumes. That's just goes to show how much more there is to talk about with these episodes than in volume 7 or 8. Buy my book and join the Discord. That's all I got.
You'll see, yeah, if you join the Discord, you will see all of the big ass Shigo pics I'm posting in the Lewd channel repeatedly from now on. So make sure you join for that.
Yeah, good episode. I just remember, get yourself a girl like Shigo.
Can't believe that's the takeaway from this. See y'all later.
Bye.